inflation is forecast to come down sharply, reaching 0.5% by the end of next year. Lower commodity prices and lower interest rates, which boost incomes and help business profits, together with a fiscal reaction across the world, will also help. As an open and a flexible economy, the UK is well positioned to benefit from this recovery. And as a result, and as the world economy recovers from the credit crunch, the United Kingdom's economy will begin to grow again. And I'm forecasting growth of between 1.5% and 2% in 2010, and in the years after that, the economy will continue to recover. Trend output, or the productive potential of the economy, will initially fall. But in future years, the economy will recover towards a rate of trend growth of around 2.75%. Mr. Speaker, every country in the world is facing the impact of this crisis on their own economy. But there is a growing international consensus, unfortunately not shared in this House, that we must act now to protect people and help pull our economies out of recession. For there is a choice. You can choose to walk away, let the recession take its course, adopt a sink or swim attitude, let families go to the wall. That is no action plan. Or you could, as I have decided, as have governments of every shade around the world, to support businesses, to support families by increasing borrowing, which will also reduce the impact and the length of the recession. And I will do whatever it takes to support people through these difficult times. And that's why my pre-budget report today represents a substantial fiscal loosening to help the economy now, with a £20 billion fiscal stimulus between now and April 2010, around 1% of GDP. But before I describe the detail of how the government will support people, let me turn to the fiscal framework which will help us ensure fiscal sustainability. The government introduced the Code for Fiscal Stability in 1998, committing itself to conducting fiscal policy in accordance with a clearly stated set of principles. Our objectives are and remain to support the economy, to ensure medium-term sustainability and maintain public investment. It meant we were able to more than triple public net investment from 0.6% of GDP in 1997 to over 2% now. At the same time, we cut the government debt from 43% of GDP in 1997 to 36% in 2007. Today, I published the Treasury's assessment of the last economic cycle, which is supported by the Independent National Audit Office. And it shows that the last cycle, which started in 1997 and finished in the second half of 2006. And it means that the government met both its fiscal rules over that last cycle. Mr. Speaker, the average current budget balance over the cycle was 0.1% of GDP. But today, Britain, like every other country in the world, it faces an extraordinary global crisis, which means significantly lower tax revenues, both now and in the medium term. In the current circumstances, to apply these rules in a rigid manner would be perverse and damaging. We would have to take money out of the economy, making a difficult situation worse. So it's right that in this pre-budget report we do all we can to support the economy, but also to ensure fiscal sustainability in the medium term. And consistent with the Code for Fiscal Stability, the government is setting a temporary operating rule that requires us to set policies to improve the cyclically adjusted current budget each year once the economy emerges from the downturn, so that it reaches balance and debt is falling as a proportion of GDP once the global shocks have worked their way through the economy in full. The fiscal projections that I set out in this pre-budget report are consistent with returning the current balance and debt falling as a share of the economy by 2015-16. They imply, as the economy emerges from the downturn, an adjustment of the cyclically adjusted current balance of over 0.5% a year from 2010-11, which will set us on a path to deliver our objectives of supporting the economy, ensuring sustainability and maintaining public investment. In addition, to increase transparency even more, I've asked the NAO to audit the Treasury's analysis of the cyclical fiscal position. I now want to turn to the forecast of the public finances. Mr. Speaker, because of the economic situation, tax revenues are falling across the world. As company profits fall, so do the proceeds for corporation tax. receipts from the financial sector alone are expected to reduce by 35% this year. Slower growth in wages means less income tax. Fewer people buying houses and falling prices mean less money from stamp duty, where the tax take here is now down 40%. And because of the scale of these global problems, it's inevitable that tax revenues will take some years to come back up. And that all means that borrowing will be significantly higher than forecast. As a result of the combined effect of lower revenues, our commitment to maintain spending and extra support to the economy, borrowing will rise to £78 billion this year and £118 billion next, or 8% of GDP. But then, from 2010, as I take action to reduce borrowing, when the economy begins to recover, borrowing will fall to £105 billion, then 87, then 70, then £54 billion. And by 2015-16, we will again be borrowing only to invest. This means that the projection for the underlying budget deficit...